Well, you guys want me to do the advertisements, and then you can host it?
Sure.
Or do you want to try to do the advertisements, PR Sam?
I in my NPR voice, I'd like to say,
You want to do it?
Welcome to The Card is going to change. Sponsored by Angelo's Pizza in Lakewood, Ohio, and
Madison Avenue.
in Lakewood, Ohio, and we'd like to thank everybody for joining today. And
Wait, Pollyanna
we also
DIY.
How many
Pollyanna.
missed all the
Don't forget all
other
the sponsors. Pollyanna DIY.
Well, I need to see my show run. Like, I need a sheet. Like,
Oh, no, I do this off the top of the head
No
every
sheet,
episode.
brother. No sheet.
At one point in time,
I
we
thought
had
you just cut your own. I thought you had one and you just cut it into it.
At one point we did, but for the last, 4 or 5 months, I think
Yeah,
we
cut out the
You cut out the
canned
music.
one.
because we used to do
The music used to hype me up when I listened
we
to
used
it
to
at
do
the gym.
Jack Prince, and we
Yeah.
used to start every episode with somebody saying JAK.
that was
That's behind the
that's
scenes.
what that was got that.
But we
kind
no
of-
longer, since we no longer had Jack Prince, it's been I do it live, pal.
We still kind of have Jack Prince, but we got this guy Larry who's been printing his T-shirts a little cheaper.
There's some good apps out there if you want to print some good cheap T-shirts.
Here's how it goes, Sam. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of AIW's The Card is Going to Change. Before we get into this week's episode, of course, we want to give a shout out to our sponsors that help us bring the show to you for free each and every week on whichever platform you listen. Thanks to Angelo's Pizza. They're there at every one of our live events, so you can try it. If you want to try more than their pizza, check them out at Angelo's on Madison Avenue in beautiful Lakewood, Ohio. Thanks to Pollyanna DIY. They do some custom merchandise for us, and they have so many different great things there, including really awesome vintage t-shirts. So make sure you check out Pollyanna DIY.
Well, they're not really vintage. They're just like
Yeah, it's a look
reprints.
back, right?
Yeah.
Reprint, I guess.
Distress.
You're right. They're not old. They're
They're new old.
what's old is new?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Also, thanks to Smart Mark Video, who records each and every one of our live events so that you guys can watch it. Maybe you were there and you want to watch it again. Maybe you didn't get to see it at all. You purchase it on DVD or download it on an MP4 at smartmarkvideo.com.
You can also stream on smvod.com.
Bam, check that out. And of course, speaking of streaming, make sure you subscribe to independentwrestling.tv. Use the code ABSOLUTE for a 20-day free trial, and you can watch all sorts of shows from the AIW archives, as well as plenty of other independent wrestling. And with that in mind, we're joined here today by AIW owner John Thorne. My name is Steve Guy.
We have some special guests.
Yeah, I am usually your moderator of sorts, but a couple fine gentlemen, they spend $100 on the Patreon, but they have spent far too much money on us in general, including a wonderful private party for us in Hoboken, New Jersey, when we were there for Slumber Party Massacre.
I think it's pronounced Hoboken.
Yeah, I'm just going to ask you guys how to say it specifically. Thank you, NPR Sam. We are joined by NPR
The Goldsteins.
Sam Goldstein.
The Goldsteins.
Goldsteins.
The best is I like this because we kind of like bullied our way onto the show. Like we just keep spending money until we eventually can have microphones put in front of us.
We can't say no to money.
That's right.
So we have said no to money.
We have from you guys. So that voice, the first voice you heard is Sam, and of course his brother Josh also here. And we did say no to money, but I did say yes to Josh bringing me fabric for a new suit.
I have it right here, actually, in a bag for you.
Oh my
Make
God.
sure that I give it to you when before you leave.
Completely his idea. All right, this is what I say.
Got to make sure he looks good if he's going to be on. I'm a big fan of comedy. I want to make sure he looks good when he gets up there.
This episode is obviously going to air after Absolution, and I
this
just got to
is-
say that,
This is Absolution Eve.
yeah, we're recording
Our
on
first
Absolution
Absolution.
Eve. This is your first Absolution
This is the one
ever?
that Sam tried to get me to. We've been trying to do this one since we came to the first one.
Oh, man.
Well, this
it
is
kind
my
of full
14th.
circle.
This is, I don't know how many between attendance and how many. This is the third or fourth that I've been a part of. Third, I think.
This one feels really big from just.
It feels really big
Yeah.
for us, I think, too.
Yeah.
But Josh helped me pick out my blazer for Absolution. So if you hated it,
We're such bulls in a china shop. Like we're like Steve Guy, this is what you should wear. John, we're going to be on the podcast.
I love it
We're
'cause
coming out. We're driving out Thursday. Come to our hotel. We're animals.
But you provided us with our favorite drinks. We've got Tito's and Milagro tequila is my favorite drink.
Josh doesn't drink tequila, so he's like, we get into the store and he's like, I'll have the Tito's and Milagros tequila, and I was like, oh, such an amateur.
The funny thing is, you guys were at the tequila place, and then
Oh yeah.
and then
we were such tourists. We were drinking like, we'll have the
Giant
classic margarita, and I was like, they were like
Holding it with two hands.
it was like such tourists.
and then Josh
like,
was like, he asked me, or we talked about it, and I was like, yeah, or tequila is fine or whatever, and he said, tequila it is, my friend, and I literally thought that the text message said tequila is my friend, and I was like, oh great, fellow tequila drinker.
Yeah, I
I'm
thought
on
they were
board.
having a night already.
Yeah.
Well,
they
tequila's
were
not really.
They were.
I'm more of a Scotch guy, and you notice in this room is bare of the White Claws this time around. So
Well, I told you didn't have to because you were getting the Tito's. And
I
the
still would have
tequila.
brought it, but it gives me a weird feeling when I drink it.
You guys have ruined it. So like, I had Josh over a couple weeks ago, and we have a pool, and we were gonna have him come to the pool.
We
with
don't
his
ruin
family.
anything, Sam.
No, well, here's what happened. So Josh says to me, Josh goes, yeah, and get a few White Claws. And like, so where I live in back east, it's like, there's one liquor store open, on Sundays, and it's a little bit of a more conservative county. And so I could go there, and I'm like, yeah, you guys got White Claw? And the guy's like, yeah, what's with people buying it right now? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, wrestlers? I don't know. So I bought like a bunch of, I bought like the sampler pack, and like Josh comes in, he opens one at a time. He's like, oh great. He's like, we'll have the berry, I'll have the mango, I'll have the lime, and I'll have the pineapple, the
obsession getting in.
grapefruit. And he's drinking like one at a time.
I haven't had the pineapple yet.
But he was taking a sip and then just leaving it. And I was like,
Well, I have to say I tried them all. That's part of the OCD. That's
Is this
me.
when you were tweeting about it all?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to try them all, and then I ended up buying a whole bunch on the golf course and sticking them in my golf bag.
I will say that I think White Claw's been a little bit beat to death, and I think I'm just going right back to Tito's and water.
You should. There's no drunk
Well, I
with
keep
a
saying
White Claw. It doesn't
my
work.
favorite White Claw is tequila and soda. But listen, we need sponsorships, so
Well, they ain't sponsoring us yet. So.
What?
Yeah, we're
maybe
working
you
on
get
it.
Truly's to come in.
That's the Tom Lawler. Tom Lawler.
Tom Lawler.
That's
Those
what
are
I
Truly.
heard. I have never had that one. Is it all seltzer with vodka or something?
I never
no,
had it.
it's all just seltzer.
That's
and
all it is?
alcoholic seltzer.
It's just
I have a PR question for you, Sam. Even though, I mean, you guys can ask the questions because this is your podcast, but I thought of this as we're talking about advertising and pro wrestling. Why is there this stigma that people feel like they can't advertise with pro wrestling, like even on a smaller scale? Like, we struggle with sponsorships, like those big brands. Like, I try to approach people. I've approached Tito's reps and other distributors, and I'm like, look, we sell out this Odeon Concert Club. Nothing else really does as much as we do there. At least 300 people. Sometimes we push 500-600. And we do that. We get a couple thousand downloads or more on our podcast. We have over 1 million YouTube hits. We have tens of thousands.
Lots of stats we
of
got.
followers. Yeah, I throw out all these stats, which are what they want. And the Tito's rep is just like, we're booked for the year, so like, no, thank you. You know what I mean? Like,
I think, and this is, I've heard this said a few different ways. I think it's a misconception in general,
I agree.
and I think that we haven't yet reached the point where you can actually quantify any longer, I guess you would say, who's actually watching, who's downloading, who's streaming. I don't think anybody really knows who their audience is. So
Yeah, I think it's impossible at this point.
Yeah,
with,
it
with how
seems to me.
versatile the platforms are. You can get you can get content so many different ways. It's impossible to know who's watching.
Yeah, and I mean that was kind of one of the questions I was going to ask you. We learned of AIW, through, Cabana and then through the podcast. So we've kind of been. I've listened to the podcast from the very beginning, and that was before. And then I would start to follow on Twitter, and I signed up for the email list.
Who's your favorite podcast host?
Well,
Let him answer
I
his
mean,
question.
some of the Steve, some of the early episodes were just dynamite. They were just gold.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard any of those,
That
but
I heard that guy's on the run now.
Yeah, I listened.
oh, I heard
Yeah.
that.
He's got a warrant
Maybe
for
in
his
Nashville,
arrest.
right?
He's got a
Yeah.
warrant for his arrest in this county.
Maybe you can let that guy stay in your hotel room. I think he needs a place to crash.
What's one more person? But I think that's why I was kind of going to ask you guys, like, we're and we have a great time with this, and this is for Josh and I, this has kind of become like something that we really enjoy.
Yeah.
But do you guys think you've seen other people who would normally maybe casual, maybe not even casual, but maybe fans who have become more part of I guess more quantifiable through the podcast?
I think the podcast has humanized us and humanized the pro wrestlers, or however you want to say it, to where, if you went to a show, it's just like, hey, I want to buy your T-shirt, and then it's like, it's killed somewhat of the boundary, so to speak, which is good and also bad, because through this podcast, I think people kind of can relate to us, and they've almost, it sounds weird to say, but they almost feel like they've developed this friendship, even though they're just listening.
Yeah, it's an intimacy, like live radio. You guys, when people are driving or just sitting with you, they get an intimacy that they don't get,
So I think that's good, and it's really helped, and like it's made people understand that like every dollar that comes in goes towards the company and it helps us, continue to do it. But also, like, sometimes it is a little weird when you're like out in public and like somebody's screaming something crazy about the podcast, and like you're just surrounded by just like average Joes and you're totally stone cold sober, and it's just like, this is uncomfortable.
But in a way, because you always did the after parties, right?
Yeah.
So in a way, you had kind of taken a step in that direction, and in fact, the podcast is helping you kind of amplify that sense of community.
Well, did we start the after parties after the podcast?
Well, we have done after parties sporadically throughout the history of AIW.
Yeah, but more regularly, I guess.
And it's really like a sponsorship pitch, right? It's
Yeah.
like, hey, we can bring you so much business.
Yeah.
Again, quantifying.
But that has also kind of helped build the community of AIW, and like, like it's like people will go and see the show, they'll listen to the podcast, and then they get to have a drink with this guy and have a conversation.
That's the reason why he brought me out. One of the things when we were listening to the podcast, he said, we could go out there and we can watch a show, and then we can go to the after party and we can see what's going on, as opposed to if you went to an Evolve show like we did in Queens, and the show goes really long and then we leave and that's it. You might see somebody in a parking lot and they'll say, I saw Matt Morgan in a parking lot. I asked him for a picture once at an Evolve show, and he goes, I sell these inside. And I'm like, bro, I'm like, we're out here. Can I just?
I saw allegedly Matt Morgan maybe flick a lit cigarette at a pregnant woman once. Allegedly.
Well, I caught him out there with Brian Kendrick one night having a cigarette during the show, and I went to Brian Kendrick. I go, you're awesome, but no, with the cigarettes you're gonna gas out, man. And we just kept
how
moving.
many places can you go to a show, watch a match, be like, God, that match was awesome, and then go to a spot afterwards, and rather than like go home and tweet about this guy was awesome, I loved his match, go to the spot and be like, hey man, I loved your match, and then buy that guy a beer or a drink
what makes your fan special though is, and something that really was great for us, that's why we like it so much, is they'll keep that the disbelief they'll keep kayfabe when the show's going on. They'll root for the bad guys and cheer
Right.
for the good guys.
Yeah.
And then when they go to the bar, we can kind of
Everyone's-
separate.
Right.
But that's what's great. You want on TV everybody cheering for the good guys and booing the bad guys, and then we'll worry about the rest when you leave. And that's what's amazing about it.
Is that a function though of almost like I don't want to put words. Is that a function of almost like a territory mentality that you have running Cleveland, or is that a function of like?
I think. Are you talking about the after party?
Just everything in general, the idea that like you're more than just like you're more than just a show where people go, they walk out, maybe they buy a T-shirt, maybe they keep going.
Well, I was going to say some of that we've got to give credit to the people on the roster,
Right.
Because they don't have to come to the after parties and associate. And there are moments, believe me, where guys will like stay apart from each other, like no, whatever. But they don't have to do that and be okay with fans being like right on top of them that just watch them, but they do, and I think that's the nature of what we have when our current thing is for the brand. it's
Well,
not
that's
just,
trademark, so we can't be saying that too much.
I told you guys that Pat McAfee, bro.
Can't be saying that much.
But it's a buy-in that everybody is a part of, not just us talking in a
You know
podcast.
that no other companies really do that.
Well,
so
I
what's
think
so
it's-
impressive about it is that you're not going to PWG and then going to a after party.
Well, like I look at it as like we're all gonna go out and get drinks somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like whether fans were coming or not, we were a couple people are gonna want to go out and get a beer and talk about the show, and who better to talk about the show and get instant feedback with than like drinking with the fans that were there. And it also just builds a community. It builds the community amongst the roster in the back, and it provides like run of the mill independent wrestling is like you're booked, you do your match, here's your envelope, I'll see you next month. You know what I mean? So there's not a lot of time to kind of develop like a bond with these people that you're working with, and I think developing the bond kind of it makes things go a lot further, than if it's just like a booking. Like it makes the guys care because they're spending time with the promoter and they're spending time with the local guys, especially these guys traveling in, and it's like building a community, and then there's a lot of fans that don't come to the after party, but the ones that do, they get to, experience this with us, and it's a unique thing that just kind of organically happened through like chase. Like one day, someone like offered us money to come to their bar, and it's like, well, we're going to a bar anyway.
I think what we need though is I think we need some new life bred into these after parties. Some younger people to come on board, and like other fans to show up, because now at this point, those of us that attend the after parties and the fans, we've all just in the last few years, we've gotten old and they've calmed down. But I assure you, if you are some young dumb fans and you come to these after parties and you want to challenge everybody on the roster to do
Is that what
dumb
you're looking
shit,
for? I'll take care of it tomorrow.
if you want us to start doing dumb shit, it will happen again real fast. It's just everybody's reached this level of I guess complacency. Like, yeah, maybe I'll just have a couple and grab some food and we'll have a good night.
There's no reason to do that. But so John, I just had a serious question. I had a question. And I don't want to mark out, as
You were
they say.
you were NPR Sam just went right out the window. You just fanboyed so hard
know.
there with the stuttering, and man, that would never fly on the radio. What are you doing here? Get your shit together.
Come on, let him
You're
talk.
hosting a podcast.
Let him talk.
So we're here with John Thorne,
And
we
serious
are
question.
we're here with John Thorne, and we are discussing the state of professional independent wrestling today. No, so my question was actually, do you see kind of an alternative to what's going on with guys getting signed and I'm just literally spitballing. Do you see this? Do you see the kind of reestablishing maybe of territories as a way to keep people on the indies?
Well, I think it's impossible to keep people on the indies because even if promoters banded together, you can never compete with the money offers that are floating around right now. It is virtually impossible. Like what we would bring in all year is probably equal to one guy's contract offer right now, and that's just like the gross, you know what I mean? So it's like what I see is, I told somebody this today, it's like the train just has to keep moving, one way or another. So it's like if guys are going to come and go, but you just gotta, have talent ready to be the next man up, and that's kind of what we've been building to. And I've talked about it before when we launched the AIW school a few years ago. It was like we saw NXT developing into a brand that was going to sign indie guys. Like Kevin Steen was the first guy to where it was like, okay, like there's going to be more of this happening very quickly. You never could have first saw another major company popping up and then doing the same thing, and it's just like it's something like I can't worry about it. I just have to continue to get creative and do things and hope that the support is still there, and that's like if you look at the Absolution card tomorrow, there's a lot of homegrown guys on that card that people are excited for. But at the same time, I do realize that they're excited within the AIW bubble. But if maybe you're like a casual fan, you're going, man, who's this Twan Tucker guy wrestling MJF? I don't want to watch that. I never heard of him. You know, because there's also this, I call them hot topic fans. Okay, so it's like
they enjoy topics that are hot or the
no.
store.
So it's like, well, this is like how I compare it is you like this band, you discover this band and like you're like, man, this band is awesome, you know, this is my thing. Then that band doesn't necessarily get radio play, but like they're on the Warped Tour and they're selling their t-shirts in Hot Topic now. And then you get this like mall kid that's like, oh, this is my band now. You know, I'm underground. Even though like it's like just a guy that's just buying a t-shirt off a wall, doesn't know anything about it. Like he's just hopping on the bandwagon of the already established thing. So it's like you got to understand that there's people that are just like that and they're like, they don't want to see the rise. They want to see the complete product, and then they want to they want to act as if they're this like underground independent wrestling fan when they're really just like hopping on something that's already established. So it's like I realize that, you know, MJF versus Twan Tucker is just an example of that, to where it makes so much sense within the AIW universe, but on the grand scale of things, there's, you know, hundreds of thousands of wrestling fans that will be like, I don't know who that guy is, so I'm not going to buy it.
You can't do those, like you said before. You can't do a super card for every show. It's meaningless. At this point.
And the thing, like, you know, there's a lot of independent companies that are probably in trouble because they've been beating that model to death, and now these guys are leaving literally every single day. Somebody is getting signed to, you know, to go off the independent. So, you know, it's like I got in the business of cultivating my own talent and creating my own talent and trying to figure out how to make them matter. And they matter within this universe, and that's good. Whether they connect outside, I don't know. You know, it really depends on how many people order the fight streams and things like that, and kind of give it a shot, to where, you know, maybe they're like, oh wow, you know, this is a great alternative.
But it also it takes a certain level of commitment by you to say, this is what we're going to do. Right?
I mean, it's a matter of necessity, because I like I said, I saw a change in independent wrestling coming a long time ago. I never could have even imagined it would have gotten to this point with AEW, to where people are getting signed even more rapidly. Before, like, when I got involved in independent wrestling, like, getting a contract was like not even considered. Like, it was just guys that just wanted to be wrestlers and say they're wrestlers. Nobody even really, like, WWE was like a pipe dream that was like a, you know, it was like getting a lottery ticket. Now it's like, it's pretty obtainable for a lot of these guys. So you're just seeing different mentalities coming from even the wrestlers, to where it's like guys aren't necessarily working hard for the independent dollar because they want to save themselves, because they know that there's probably a pretty good chance that they're going to get a lottery ticket.
Well, so my question to you also is, so you see the WWE model now, right? It's NXT. They sign indie guys, they put them on NXT, or they bring them in the Performance Center. They might not get on TV for a year or whatever, but they're learning, right? What is AEW's model going to be when they're on TV only once a week, and then they sign all these guys? What do you do with the guys on the bottom if you're AEW? How do they even cultivate their talents if they're not working? Not everybody can work.
Oh, that remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, that, you know, the one thing that they do have is they got a couple $2 billion. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm sure you could figure out a lot to do with a couple $2 billion. Like, but they, you know, they need to create an infrastructure and a plan, and get a, you know, just a company just directive going. But, you know, I can't really speak on it until it happens. I think, you know, that's the big unknown. But the one thing that is known is they are offering people a lot of money to go off the independents. Like, we're gonna see tomorrow. Tomorrow will be MJF and Joey Janela's last AIW show, win, lose, or draw for until their contracts expire. And then what you're probably going to see happen is you're going to probably see guys go back and forth from those companies as opposed to stopping on the indies and doing like the indie tour that you're so used to seeing when somebody got fired or somebody was signed but they were finishing up. Now I think if you're on that level, like, it's going to be contract wars and the independents. Like right now, like I look at these guys, and if they're in the AEW system or they're in the NXT system, like I virtually have to count them out for ever being able to do business with them again, because I think it's just going to be like how it was in the 90s, you know, like this guy leaves WWF, he goes to WCW.
Wasn't that mid-stop back in the 90s more ECW? So like when Austin left WCW, he went to ECW, right? You saw him for a little while, and then he left Pillman. He left, he went to ECW for a little while, then
but I don't think,
it was like almost like a U shape.
I think the business has changed so much to this point to where WWE can sign you and you can go to NXT UK, you can go to NXT, you can go right to SmackDown, you can go to Raw. Who knows, you know, if there's going to be NXT India or Australia or Japan. Like, they'll find places to put these guys. And, you know, the same thing goes, you know, like what happens if like, you know, like a Randy Orton is like, I'm out of here, you know? AEW probably give him some money, right?
Yeah. And the one thing that you can do, too, is in AEW, and again, we have no idea what their structure or anything is going to be at this point, but if you think back to when Raw and things started, I think where you know right now that's going to be like a 2-hour show or whatever starting in October, you can sign this talent, but because you're only doing 1 2-hour show every single week, you can hide people and flaws and weaknesses and still build and develop, because not everybody has to be on the show every single week. And in fact, it kind of, as a viewer, right, like you used to tune in and like, I kind of want to watch this guy, but then we watch the main big things, you'd be looking for that, but you know,
that's why NXT works, because you're only seeing like 3 or 4 matches a week, and then you get a guy's not coming back like, you know, 2 3 weeks on the show, and
you get little blips of the storyline or something. For instance, you know, Adam Cole disrupting AIW school, right? Wasn't wrestling on NXT that week, but that was a whole ongoing thing, and you didn't even see him in Full Sail for like 3-4 weeks, but he was a part of the show in some capacity. So that's a thing that an AEW can do.
Well, so I just want to say this so that we don't take too much of, you know, somebody's week. This happens to be one of the things that have drawn us to AIW is, and you know, I don't want to you know, be on a podcast and act like we're, you know, at John's, you know, level of knowledge about wrestling. It's fun to like kind of banter back and forth. I can't believe we're actually taping it. I'll probably regret, you know, some of the things that we said, trying to sound like, you know, we have some type of authority. But I do want to say to, you know, to both of you guys, look, we're 2 guys from back east who really, you know, were turned on by the medium of the podcast to who you guys are. You haven't missed a beat with us. We've enjoyed, you know, we've enjoyed it every step of the way. And some people have the ability to take a little bit more time to go to an after party. But I think what you guys are doing is fantastic for a community that we don't even live in. And I really do want to thank you guys for even letting us do this, because we're not, I mean, we know nothing in the end.
Yeah, but thank you guys. You're such big contributors. You know what I want to come out of this podcast for people who are listening right now? Like, you guys made this trip and everything. How many WrestleManias have you guys been to?
Josh goes, I don't go to WWE shows.
Okay, but that's my point.
Yeah.
How many WrestleManias have you been to, right? But you made an Absolution weekend trip. Like, I go to WrestleMania weekend every year for the last like 8 years with a group of friends, and here you are. You just created an Absolution weekend. That's what I want. And you guys came from, you know, the Newark, New Jersey area. That's to me, that's our next step that we want to get to, is for people to come in and do this. Like, if we can have an Absolution weekend every year that is not obviously a WrestleMania weekend, but for baseball terms, a AA version of it somehow or something.
The same way PWG gets a write-up in Vice magazine or one of those about how, you know, Bola. No, but how Bola, you know, sells it. how Bola, sells out. I mean, for me, I would rather we've, and I speak for my brother. This is this to us is it's that kind of fun.
Yeah.
I've never been to Bola. I don't really, to me it looks like it's great. I'm glad for them, but like I think that like once in a couple times a month, a couple times a year, being able to come out to Cleveland for us and and come to these shows, you guys produce every single time.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think it's really just being a wrestling fan, and I know you guys enjoyed ECW, and that's really what I enjoyed. And I try to take that business model of using old guys, young guys, creating guys. Like think about like the guys that came out of the ECW school, which we'll get to that with you, Josh, in a second. But
another day.
But just think about that. When WWE started signing guys away in WCW, they really started
But
going towards.
they only had 3 graduates of the ECW school.
But, I mean, look at
Doring and
Roadkill,
and there was a third. And
Chris Chetty.
Chetty, that's right. And
But they were all
the significance of Chris Chetty and AIW, right?
No.
He's my favorite wrestler.
Oh, that's right.
yeah, it's
I thought you were going to tell me something like he was here doing.
I looked into him for J-Lit, but
somebody hasn't been doing his archive listening. Like, come on.
John Thorne's favorite
I
wrestler of all time.
I looked into him for maybe not all time, but he was my favorite wrestler for a time.
At that time.
But think of this, right?
But if ECW would have stayed in business longer, I feel that you would have saw more of that cultivating of talent. And like they made Doring and Roadkill stars. Chris Chetty was in there. You know what I mean? And then you saw guys like Tom Marquez coming, and a lot of these other weird guys coming at the end. And I think if ECW would have stayed in business longer, that would have been their natural resource.
Well, what about before to just kind of go back to this point about where if guys leave, let's say they do leave WWE and they don't want to go to AEW. Where there one day, I mean, from what I've seen, just from being involved in this for the last year and a half, AIW is big. You have endorsements from Kevin Owens, who loves seeing you guys. You have endorsements from all these guys. Why can't you be the middle range and be like the ECW?
Because it's money. You know what I mean? Like we don't have the money. Like you guys might not have that kind of inner working knowledge, but even Ring of Honor is assigning guys to 6-figure deals now. So it's like
they're drawing 300 people in New York City.
But they're backed by $1 billion company.
Right.
So it's like you have that, you have AEW, you have WWE, you have New Japan offering big dollars. So it's like a guy is going to go and entertain all of that before he wants to not have a guaranteed income and try to hustle on the independents.
Right.
You're not even seeing John Moxley do a lot of independents.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
didn't he sign right up to New Japan also? Like he's out there not losing matches
because
in the G1.
there's big money. You know what I mean? There's big money out there. Maybe if the big money stops, or these companies go, well, we're not seeing a return on this investment. Like, people are billionaires because they know how to make money. And when the money, if the money's not coming in, maybe you will see the industry calm down. But my thought, if I had to predict where the industry was going, it's going to be fighting over talent over those 4 companies, and the independents are going to be tasked with trying to create guys from scratch. And then as soon as they get any sort of hype, it could possibly get scooped up. But the bubble's got to pop eventually.
Yeah, there's a finite amount that people are going to put up with before everybody. They're going to be like, all right, now I can't see anything.
But
so why would I want?
But honestly, without trying to sound like, I mean, we don't know anything about it. Like I would, I wouldn't go to Josh's job, and be like, sit there on a Monday and be like, hey, maybe you'll do this better. Like, I'm just like, I don't want to sit here and be like, hey, so that's why I think.
Well, you guys make money at those jobs, though.
But that's why I just want to say this. Like, when I think about the card, I know this is going to air Absolution, but when I think of knowing the company as we've followed it the last few years, when I think of 40 Acres and the production, and I think of Josh Bishop and Matthew Justice, and I think of the main event, with Lawler and Kingston. I think you guys are onto something, and it's so fun to watch. But more importantly, the way you've created the brand, which includes the podcast, the after parties, the releasing the videos, the hype videos, the various shows you're doing, the kind of spot shows that you sometimes kind of pop up with like with Sekimoto.
Patreon packages.
The
from
Patreon
Dom.
packages.
3 cards and a signature.
This has been
the best.
This for us. We love it, and I think that, I think that the more there's a way to get more of kind of wrestling fans like us who don't necessarily have to be 10 minutes away to come do it, and it's amazing, and that's why, like, look, we're sitting here in a hotel room that we just drove 6 hours this morning, to watch tomorrow night, to watch show, and I couldn't be more excited. I think you guys are doing like,
well, this is why
great.
Sometimes this is why I'm still obsessed with going after mainstream sponsorships, because I think casual people may grasp onto that. And what I need these people to understand, which is funny, is we talk about brands, and to use a marketing term, wrestling fans, is they are nothing else. They obviously are diverse, but they are brand loyal.
I knew you were going to say it. Yeah,
also,
brand loyal.
100%.
What we talked about when we came the first time
Why,
was...
why did you try White Claw, Josh?
Well, because of you guys.
See what I'm saying?
I'm an obsessive compulsive, so that's why I had to do it.
But you see what I'm saying? Like, it's brand loyalty. We sit here like a bunch of idiots talking about White Claw.
But that's when you mention the advertising. The last thing I to think about, just from what I said to Sam, the people of Cleveland are fiercely loyal. There's got to be those big Cleveland-based companies that are going to want to tap into the fact that they're fiercely loyal to you. You're Cleveland, and the people who go to your show are Cleveland.
And it's really just a matter of somebody seeing that. You know what I mean? Like, but
well, that's why when we go, we're like, let's put it. I throw it on Facebook. I put it on. I'm like, whoever I can talk to, go look at this. Look at the guys from Cleveland. Like
I was talking about the indie guys, like getting that winning lottery ticket now, and it's so obtainable. We just haven't scratched our lottery ticket, so to speak, to where someone is like, yes, I get it. Like, I would, I want to invest. Invest is a weird word, because I wouldn't take an investor, but, I want to sponsor, support, things like that.
Somebody to boost.
Yeah, a boost. But like
booster.
At the same time, I do think that there is something that drives me, because it isn't easy. You know what I mean? Like, it drives me to get creative, and like I could do these super shows, but I find it more fulfilling to utilize some of these students and make people care about these guys that are brand new and young, and probably maybe shouldn't even be in the spots that they are in yet. But it's, I could easily book guy X versus guy Z, who has been wrestling for 10 years and is great. But I don't know. It's more fun to do it this way, and it's more.
Yeah,
no
offense to the guys who do the super shows, because they're
great. They're great as well.
But I can only I'm 41. I've seen the same match. And if I saw it on Twitter or if I saw it on Facebook, clips of it, and then see it again in the middle of the country, and then see the same card booked, like the guys in Wrestle Circus who booked the same card, and then the guys out west booked the same card.
Well, they're not booking anything anymore, brother.
Yeah, but I'm like, it made sense. Right now they're gone. So
why'd you give our age, by the way?
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
just his age. Nobody knew that you were twins until
there you go.
Now it's not working. It's all falling apart. Right. The whole mystique. Josh wears glasses, and he also has a penchant for fast food.
But in the end, like,
let's get throwing out pensions. You know what I mean?
He uses good words. That's why my wife wanted him to talk and wanted me to sit to the side, because he can only take so much of me, as probably Thorne can tell you, bothering him.
No,
as
you
I
don't bother
Sam,
me.
And that's about it.
But I was actually going to say, like, and I don't mean to cut you off.
No, go for
Steve, it. It's your show.
No, this is your show right now.
But I was going to say, like, I
don't have a soft voice.
I think for you guys, when I think of, when I think of you have Derek, and you have the guys from the production, and they're really doing really innovative, good stuff. So why not go with it?
Well, right, and it's like, those guys are a perfect example. They were dead in the water when Magnum CK got hurt, and they took initiative.
Yeah.
And I couldn't deny it because they were making unique and creative things, and it's like, okay, let's run with it, and it seems to have caught on.
But you managed to put together all your tag team division. They're great. The young guys that you put into the scrambles. We talked about it the first time we were here, and I never heard of a lot of the guys, and Sam talked me through these guys. My eyes were opened up. Like the minute I saw Philly Marino and all those guys, I was like, where have I been? Like these guys are they're incredible.
Outside looking in, is AIW's tag team division like one of the most stacked things
fun.
about
it's
AIW?
Super fun. I love it.
On the
And
inside-
I love tag team wrestling. I used to the British Bulldogs, and Cake and Valentine,
And
the
the
fact that
Bees?
they don't do it on TV just frustrates me all the time.
As a guy that's on the inside of it, I love it, and
They're
I love
great.
all these teams. But I don't I'm like maybe it's just me. So that's my first time I get to ask people. Really,
Unfortunately, I've become such an absurd mark for AIW that I find myself only paying attention to certain other shows. So it's like I don't know what I know that I follow because I'm on their email list somehow, which is hilarious because sometimes I'm just gonna unsubscribe to some of these other groups. But
are you on ours?
oh yeah.
yeah,
Okay, just check.
How do you think we get our tickets in the beginning?
no, but it's
He goes, it's up, go, and then I
But
have to
even
do everything I can.
I watch the cards that AAW puts out.
Uh-huh.
There's the guys in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
I don't in terms of tag team wrestling. I mean they're putting on a show, but you guys too. I see what we and it's funny because for guys who really consider ourselves people who are fans of independent wrestling, we're much more prone to drive 6 hours to Cleveland than we are to drive 33 minutes to watch a Creative Pro show. I don't know why that is, but part of it
we
is
love-
that trip
we
to
do
Deer
love
Park is
Creative Pro.
really far.
Come on, CPA, man.
We love
I
Creative
love
Pro.
CPA. He couldn't have been cooler to me. He's great. And Bobby Orlando. Those guys
Yeah,
are
good guy.
fantastic.
Josh
nice
goes.
guys.
He loves him. He goes.
It's our boy,
But
Clay Hawkins over there.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
No, nothing. Again, we are in that state where we are. So I see what cards a lot of the other indie shows put out. I think when you just asked about tag team wrestling, yeah, I mean, look, AJ Gray he's a beast, and if you're going to put him in a stable that has 40 acres, and he's going to be potentially in a Freebird role with either Trey or PB Smooth on any card, to me that's kind of hard.
intriguing,
That's
huh?
kind of hard to beat, right?
You like that?
That's I don't.
But I love Freebird rules. So anybody who wants to do, there's not enough 6-man tags. There's not enough of that anymore.
And we're so awful for throwing out that term out there we're part Freebird rules. I'm not even
No,
sure.
I love the Freebird rule.
But I'm not even sure.
Fun
I'm not
rule.
even sure the technicality is behind it. But it seems to me like if you have this possibility where AJ Gray and either PB or Trey any week,
Yeah.
I don't. Those guys to me are that's a tough. They're not going to lose very often.
And
They're
the-
awesome.
It's fun.
Like I was saying, I think this is going to be where independent wrestling can excel is when you start creating these new guys and you make it exciting for people to care about new talent. If more of independent wrestling was kind of focusing on that, I think there wouldn't be this kind of lull in talent that we're seeing because everyone's signed.
But I think you also you have guys in your school they're so likable as people that you saw on that NXT video, and then Twan all of a sudden is this huge people want to cheer for him because you see him and you're like, this guy's just a great guy, and everybody's like, and all your guys, the guys who come out of your school, even the ones they're just the ones I've interacted with, their personality reflects you and what. And
Well,
what
and I
Cleveland
mean,
is.
we just kind of or I've been around wrestling a long time to where, I actually had this talk with students on Tuesday night. I said, if you guys don't understand how lucky you have it, if you were a young guy coming into a locker room in 2003, you weren't helped, you were treated like shit, you're told to sit in the corner. If you did something bad, they sent somebody out with a chair to hit you with it because it was a bunch of old guys that didn't want anybody to take their spots because there was there was a glass ceiling that nobody was breaking through in that era, and it's this is my spot, I'm the guy here, and that's it. So if you were young coming in, you were treated like garbage. Nobody wanted to help you, and Magnum CK is up at the school on Tuesday, and giving people all this advice, and I said, you have no idea how great you guys have it. And our main kind of thing that we preach at the school is just be a good dude, and it will help you so much in the long run. Like, be a good dude to fans, be a good dude to the other wrestlers, and because wrestling still does have its fair share of scumbag people, but if you're just a good dude and you're just kind of on your own, like it's gonna get you pretty far.
Well, you take the carny out of it, and you tell people to be good people, and don't try to
and don't teach them how to rip people off, and
right.
like,
if you take all that stuff out of it, you have good people, and that's what your guys. Honestly, the guys who are on the roster are like. They're not. We never. When we approached you guys, nobody treated us like we're just marks and like. Whatever.
Right. I think Mark is such like a dirty word.
Yeah, it's such a bad word. You can't just throw it out there. Like,
but it is. That's
no,
what
like
people,
I think it is.
You literally said you were marking.
The term
out.
mark is from the carny side.
I know. I'm so.
No, it's different when like you're saying like marking out, but like when you call somebody a mark, like that's just like what I mean. It's like it's an attempt to be like degrading, and it's like.
Yeah,
everyone's just a person. Like wrestlers are the biggest marks in the world because they decided to become wrestlers.
Yeah, but how many people do you see from the early '90s or to the early 2000s? Mostly late '80s, early '90s have a lot of photos of them with wrestlers. There's not a lot because it was so hard.
Yeah,
these guys wouldn't give you a picture. You wouldn't be able to go. I don't think I ever met one wrestler heels. As a kid. Not one. I don't think we ever met one guy. In person.
We went to a lot of shows.
We went to a lot of shows. I never met one guy.
You definitely weren't getting pictures with guys that were heels.
And you weren't meeting
that was
them.
not happening.
You weren't there was nobody available. They weren't like, yeah, kid, come here. Like, never.
And like that's going back to what we were talking about earlier is like I want to create a full experience. From if you get to the show early, there's people in line. Probably going to be people in line at 1 p.m. tomorrow. You know what I mean? And then they're just going to hang out all day and whatever. Sometimes there's tailgating going on. And then, in the show, it's like a large percentage of the people at the show know each other. And it's like, going to kind of like a party with your friends.
Well,
and then we go to the actual official after party.
If they don't know each other, what I think is so cool. So, you hear about wrestlers vanity searching and all this stuff or whatever. Look, admittedly, I vanity search AIW stuff all the time because part of what I do and bring to the table for us is I try to garner the crowd reaction and see what people are interested in and see what's working, see what isn't working, especially because I go to the AIW school and I talk to our guys there and try to work with them on entertainment aspects and stuff. But it's so funny to watch that and see people like, I want to go to the show. I don't have anybody to sit with. And instantly, 3 people will respond to that person like, come sit with us. We don't really know who you are, but you know what I mean? Like, we looked at your picture and, hey, we've seen you there before. We've seen that face.
That's why we
come
took
sit
that
with
ride
us.
Together because we didn't know anybody. We're like, oh, boy, we're going right there. We'll see what happens.
But it's so crazy to me. Like, man, look at this community that's just been cultivating. And I think, some of that goes back to doing the after party and doing that stuff. If we sit here and create the community, then our community expands and they start to add to it themselves.
Well, and that's really what it's all about when you're talking about like, that right person finally seeing it. It's just all about the guerrilla marketing and the, hey, bring your friend and this friend and this friend. It's like independent wrestling lives and dies by the word of mouth and like the help of kind of, the community within the crowd to try to build it. But with that said, I gotta get it out of here before we run out of time. Josh,
yeah,
you did one of the coolest things that's ever happened that I've ever met somebody. This blew my mind.
Well, tried it, not do it.
You went to the ECW House of Hardcore.
Looked it up. Yeah, went over there. And checked it out. Yeah, but we all tried that. Like we wanted to be a part of it, but there was nothing to be a part. I can't take bumps or anything like that.
But you went and
but what are you gonna like?
How many people honestly?
But we
could say that they went.
We searched it out everywhere. Like it's like a myth. Like,
but you were there, right? Like
yeah, but it was it was a gym on Sunnyside, in Queens, and they had their dudes there, and it was like a
who was there? Let's hear. Who was there?
Yeah,
I saw Cronus there.
Okay.
Yeah, and trying to think.
This is so long ago. You're so dating yourself.
I honestly, it's so hard to
We date ourselves all the time on the
think
show.
of anything about it because it wasn't anything that I
would remember that forever.
It wasn't going to be a part of it. You know, it wasn't.
Josh's big moment in wrestling was when we were summer camp counselors, and he jackknife suplexed another counselor during Jello wrestling.
Okay.
So they let me teach some of the stuff to like the kids, like so we could fall properly in the Jello. And one of the counselors and
you could do this. In summer, especially the Jewish, like the
in the early '90s, you could do this.
Late '90s,
Yeah,
the
late 90s.
Jewish summer camps in upstate New York and the Poconos.
You guys know that's a stipulation in one of the matches tomorrow, right?
Jello
wrestling.
Yeah.
All right, I'm in.
Yeah, let me tell you. So wait, so you could rent these rings. They would come. They'd fill it with Jello, and they would get in there. And Josh, so everything else is like just people jumping around. Josh choreographed with another guy
We did a full match on the outside.
Full
we didn't
match.
do it in the ring because we were like, we're not going to go in there because we'll just fall on our faces.
and it ends. And we actually have the picture of Josh with this guy straight above his head
have it on me.
in a full suplex, but he's totally over his head, ready to give him a jackknife.
Yeah, this guy
suplex.
was smaller than me, so we were able to do it, and we just did it all over the ground instead of in the Jello.
But so in light of that, to show Josh's true extent of
ECW House of Hardcore training.
Yes, right. That and the fact that New Jack bought me a Playboy once. And
Okay, what's that story?
That's a great story.
We were at the what was it? The Queen show. It was the something in Big Apple, and my best friend's Jamaican, and him and I we went and we found New Jack because my buddy's like, it'll give me an in. So he's like, we were 16. He goes, will you take us into the liquor store across the street on Queens Boulevard? He goes, will you buy us a 40? And he's like, all right. So he took us over there and he goes, we go, can you get us a Playboy? And he bought us a Playboy, and my friend has the magazine, and he goes, can you sign it? And he writes on right across the front, I wish this was a wrestling magazine, signed New Jack. And my buddy has it, and that's where we got the Playboy with New Jack's signature on it because he was nice enough to take us across.
So he bought you a Playboy and a 40?
Playboy. Yeah, we were 16.
Allegedly.
Okay.
Don't want him.
I remember.
Don't want him getting in that
remember
underwear.
like it was.
I think the statute of limitations is passed.
No, I remember like it was yesterday. And
Well,
then the
that's
end of the
great.
night, that Sandman shirt I got, he had a minivan and he was pounding Heinekens. And I went over and I bought a shirt. And my
He
friend
loves
was so
Heinekens.
panicked.
Yeah.
My friend was so panicked, and I go over there and get, and he goes, tell your friend to buy a shirt for me. So I'm like, dude, go over and get a shirt from him. And he went over, and Sandman basically shook him down and took his 20, and gave him a shirt. And my buddy was just terrified, and he kind of like took off. But
It's so funny. I didn't know the Sandman Heineken thing until
No. New Jack loves Heineken.
Oh,
Sandman was drinking Heinekens out of the back of a green minivan.
Yeah, I was gonna
right
say
outside of the
Sandman-
Lost Battalion Hall.
when we booked him for Rager, I'm just thinking
He didn't drink
Sandman
at all.
bashing cans.
He didn't drink at all, but we have like the probably one existing good Sandman story out of everybody that's ever booked him.
We had a great time with him. And he had a great time.
Because Swaggle booked him like a couple months later, and he was fucking hammered and just like
Yeah.
total mess.
Well, we had
Intimidating as when we were kids. He was very intimidating.
I think
back there.
his kids were with him when we had him, right?
No,
or one of
it's
them.
just some guy that shook us down for
I thought
extra
his
money.
daughter or somebody was there
No.
or something. No, all right,
Just some
whatever.
dude.
I was tried to
Just
book
some people.
hardcore hack.
In 2001,
Ridiculous.
we booked the Sandman for like our untrained fed, and as soon as he got off the plane, he asked me. I was like 16. He was like, "Where do I got some coke?" Ah. And I was like, "I don't know, man. I'm 16."
The vending machine.
We did see Paul Heyman and Dean Malenko eating at Burger King and go to the Goldfinger.
You have to
after
say,
the show.
we where we grew up, you could go to the ECW shows at Lost Battalion Hall in Queens so easily, and the way the parking lots were set up, you literally would see
Everybody.
it was amazing. But so
No pictures. Never got a picture with them.
Did you
ever.
talk to Dina Malenko?
No. We were so afraid.
Oh,
we
I
looked
just-
in the window,
I
we were
wanted,
we were like seeing him and Heyman.
I wanted the
Terrified.
the contrast of Dean Malenko
was-
then to
no,
like
it was
like
just-
our experience. I had a great experience
So
with him.
ECW was on MSG, which was Madison Square Garden Network.
Yeah,
2:00 in the morning.
2:00 in the morning on Saturday nights, and Josh and I, like 93, 94, would watch ECW, and we would the show would end, and we would go to school like the following Monday and be like, we know something that no one else knows. We're like, we are so in.
And when that
so,
number popped up on the screen, we call and buy tickets the next morning. And
We're-
like whoever's mom.
But I think that was like
tickets.
everybody that discovered ECW, like it was on Sports Channel here.
yeah,
Yeah.
And like I think once like it was like everybody's dirty secret. Like
yeah.
Well, the first time I saw
like
it, I didn't know it was,
wrestling is fake, but this is real, and this is so much
This-
cooler.
This is so.
the first time I saw it, I didn't know what I was watching. I'm like, what? They did that outside thing where Dreamer was outside on the swing, or Raven was on the swing, and he was talking about Beulah and Dreamer.
See,
and
like I discovered it later than most people. I didn't discover it till like 97 ish.
Yeah.
And I remember the first thing I saw was New Jack. I think it's when they wrote Mustafa out. New Jack comes in and attacks the Dudleys, and he has a literal kitchen sink, and that's the
Yeah.
first thing
Yeah,
I saw.
yeah.
Well, we
And
brought
it's
a
to me-
Nintendo to the ECW arena. I
Yeah.
mean, to the Queens, to Lost Battalion, and we saw Tommy Dreamer in the parking lot while we were waiting online. And my friend wrote everything on it, and he goes, "I brought a Nintendo," and he's like, you know, he was like, "Oh, whatever. Show me when you're in there, right?" So we were in the first row. So my buddy, he gets in the ring with Stevie Richards, and he looks down at us, and we're like, "Dreamer, we got the Nintendo!" And he looks down, he gives us a wink, and in the match, he throws Steve Richards next to us, and he goes, "Give me the Nintendo," and he just smashes the Nintendo on top of Stevie Richards' head, and we were the ones who brought it, and it was the most exciting moment of our lives.
yeah, like I actually had a meeting with the building that ECW ran their first two shows in Cleveland at. It's like the coolest building I ever saw wrestling in. And I was in there and I was like, man, this is so big. And it's just like when you're there at that time, it was small because you're used to Raw. You know what I mean? Going to Raw or something.
Yeah.
And like I stood in there and I was like, there's no fucking way that we could fill this place. Like it's
did
like
so-
it's
their
crazy.
shows were
I,
so
I-
full.
I just remember Paul Heyman's voice on the previews going, "The night Kimono Wanale danced on
Extreme
top
Warfare 2,
on
Volume
of
2,
the
man.
ECW arena," and I'm just like, that to me is like, I think of ECW. and
Can I tell you? I'll let you guys in on like a little inside thing. I don't think I exposed to anybody. Maybe I talked about it on the podcast, but I don't think so. Kimono Wanale accepted my friend request on Facebook, and I was trying so hard to get her to dance atop the White Eagle Hall in Jersey because she lives in Jersey, and she read all my messages and never replied. And I was like, I will pay you.
Just tell you're some pervert, dude.
Like I was just like, she still looks good. She's like in her 50s, but I was like, that
They
was
didn't
like
show it, right? There's no video of that. Right?
Yeah,
Didn't
no,
they
there's
say-
video.
didn't they say
There's
they were-
video of
something
that.
happened, or why
that's
she?
what
why
no, that's what they always promote. They always promote that show. That was what
They
they
said
were
that the
didn't
ring.
realize- I
They
didn't
said that
realize
the
they actually
ring
had video.
The ring
Yeah.
broke, and they need to.
Yeah.
Did you guys? All right, so you watched J-Lit,
Yeah.
right? Did
Yeah.
you watch it?
Oh, yeah.
Tom Lawler.
Did you understand the Tom Lawler reference?
Yeah.
then?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, yeah.
Of course. Wait, that and that's actually.
He's even dancing to one of the songs
Yeah.
that was.
It was Man in the Box.
Man in the
Tom-
Box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man in the
I think
Box.
we've probably run way too long. But the truth is, like, when I saw him do that, to me, that was one of those nods to that, which I was like, as a fan for a long time, I was like, so many props to that whole operation, because you can't appreciate it until you know exactly like what that's in reference to. It's
And
amazing.
he was like begging me to do it all day.
I
And, like,
remember John Thorne being
and I was
so
like-
nervous about it.
I was
He's
like, no,
"Ah."
because like when Tom Lawler explains something, it's like you think he's gonna like show his dick. You know what I mean? And I'm like,
But then he's like, well, what if I put like my belt over it, and even still, we're like, I don't know. It's like, no, I'll just pull my shorts up and stuff and everything. Man, weirdest thing I think I have done this far, and I've done a lot of weird things in AIW, is put the absolute title over Tom Lawler, scantily clad, and him being like, hey, so you can't see my dick, right? And I'm like, yeah,
So-
no, dude, I can't. This is my life now.
Just as such a loser, like at the show in Jersey City, Tom Lawler's the music he came out to, I thought it was terrific. I just loved my Josh. Of course,
What did he
knows
come
it
out
is.
to there?
he came up to his regular thing.
Sleepyhead.
Oh, it was still passionate.
Wait,
Okay.
so literally like for like 2 weeks, I was like, Josh, you gotta get. And now I have it on like Spotify, and like I play it once in a while, and I'm like, I know what people don't know. Like I get it.
Well, that's because
Like, I'm just a
Wadsworth asked
loser,
about
like-
it on the J-Lit broadcast, and I tweeted at him the name of the song in the
Yeah.
group during the broadcast, and I heard my name, and I'm like, what? He's looking at Twitter right now?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that song so much.
It's so good.
It's
Well,
there's a few things like that. in
I guess
AIW.
we'll wrap it up with this. Since you guys are big ECW fans, all I have to say tomorrow is I think you guys will be very excited. That's all I have to say.
I agree.
And maybe we'll get your follow up after the fact.
John, I'm 41. I drove from New York. I have a lovely hotel room in a Marriott property, and I have to tell you something. It's the best news you could have given me.
You're gonna be I think you guys will be very excited because it is very obscure, but it's something unadvertised that I think you guys will appreciate.
Ziggy, the silent man in the room. Are you excited for tomorrow?
Fuck yeah.
There it is.
There it
Thank
is.
you.
Well,
So for John Thorne and Steve Guy and Jay Gold, I'm S Gold, and this was the card. The card's going to change, and we're happy we could have been a part of it.
thank you guys.
Thanks,
I appreciate
guys.
it.
So that was beautiful.